So last year, I watched the trailer for Illumination's new Grinch movie.
Oh no!
And then I saw another.
God!
And another. Yeah, I was pretty pissed off by a lot of the trailers, but I finally sat down and watched the movie, and what did I think of it? Actually, it's not quite as bad as one may think. Right, so, hey everybody, Bloodman Bobby here. So the reason why I haven't really been able to film a lot of videos lately was because last week I got really sick. To put a long story short, I puked and my diet mainly consisted of crackers, Cheerios, and water. So I was basically unable to make videos for last week because, I was recovering. But like I said in my review of the Sony Pictures animation movie, The Star, I said that I really wanted to get down to reviewing a lot of the movies that we have done trailer reactions to. And today we are going to be talking about Universal and Illumination's 2018 animated film, The Grinch. Yeah, if you've been following me for a while, you know that I've done a lot of trailer reactions to this movie and I've gotten so pissed off because a lot of the jokes they put in those trailers were real big face palms. You might have seen in the intro. But I wanted to give this movie a chance. With its annoying moments, I will give it that it's actually, when it actually gets, really heartfelt, it actually really works. But is that enough to save this movie from its bad jokes and its stretched out plot? We'll get into that in this review. And as my intro indicated, this will be a spoiler review because I'm not going to lie, a lot of the really good moments from this movie I think are really difficult to explain without spoiling the movie. So just keep that in mind in case you haven't seen this film. Or even better, if you haven't seen this movie yet and you are at least interested in checking it out, I would honestly stop the video so you can get the chance. So let's talk about The Grinch. What is this movie about for those who aren't, just in case for those who aren't familiar with the plot of The Grinch. So basically, The Grinch is a story about this green furry character who lives north of Whoville, and he really, really, really hates Christmas. He hates how, noisy and crazy it is, down in Whoville, the town he lives nearby. They're really big into celebrating Christmas, going all out, decorating and getting ready for the holiday. They have a few traditions down there, and he decides to steal their Christmas, steal all their ornaments and decorations and presents because he just can't take it. And in this version, the Grinch himself is played by Benedict Cumberbatch, who admittedly does a kind of unrecognizable performance, but I will admit I do think he does a pretty decent one at that. So I'll start out this review by talking about the stuff that I think a lot of people were really worried about with this movie, which is the bad stuff. And with this version of the Grinch, I would say that the bad stuff comes down to two things: the jokes and the plot, which I'll get into more detail. So I would say 80 to 90% of the jokes in this movie, they're not as bad as you think they are. They're just kind of like, whatever. You don't really, I didn't really laugh at them all that much and they just come and go. It's just kind of like you're, really like, the kind of not good sort of kids movie humor. Like, there's a scene, for instance, where a choir keeps following the Grinch when he makes his visit to Whoville, and they just won't leave him alone. They keep singing, God Rest You Merry Gentlemen, and he's trying to get away from them. There's also a scene where he's trying to get some reindeer for his, scheme to steal Christmas, and there's this goat that just keeps following them and keeps making this really loud shriek sound, and it scares, and, the Grinch is like, oh my gosh, we have found all these reindeer, and the goat comes back and makes that really loud yelp, and all the goats go away, which admittedly it did get kind of a chuckle out of me. But most of the jokes in this movie are just the kind of, unfunny ones that I honestly don't have much to say about. There's a couple really annoying jokes that did get on my nerves. One I could think of was when the Grinch asks his dog Max, hey, what do you want to do today? And Max has this daydream vision where he's riding a car while that song Mondo Number 5 plays, and the Grinch is, riding along with him with his tongue wagging on his tail. And I remember when I watched that, I was like so mad. I like stopped the movie and I was just like, nope, nope. This like what the hell is this joke doing in the Grinch movie? Which, knowing the reputation of the other modern Dr. Seuss feature film adaptations, I shouldn't be surprised, but it still really got on my nerves. Another joke that did get on my nerves was the scene where the Grinch was like doing a workout with the really crazy pop music, and he's like wearing these stupid gym shorts and like getting ready, and it's just like, oh, why are you doing this, Illumination and Universal? But in this movie's defense, those are the couple of times where the jokes did get on my nerves were like the exceptions, I would say. And the other thing too is that I feel like this version of the Grinch especially lacks plot, which I think is a consequence of what happens when you try to take Dr. Seuss's original story. I mean, it's a really good story, yes, but while it works pretty well for a half-hour special, it's really difficult to try and stretch out into, a feature-length film. And much of this movie is split between spending time watching the Grinch getting ready to, set up his scheme for stealing Christmas, while he's participating in some really unfunny antics, like the one I mentioned earlier where he's, trying to get reindeer. There's another scene where he sends Max the dog out to Whoville to basically help him count how many houses there are to steal from. And yeah, like I said, because a lot of the jokes just come off as unfunny, they didn't really do much for me. And another half of the time is spent with the girl that the Grinch would meet later on. She's also in the book too, Cindy Lou Who, who's given a much bigger role in this movie. I guess you could say kind of like the 2000 Grinch movie directed by Ron Howard and starring Jim Carrey, except in this version, in the Illumination version, she doesn't spend as much time, learning about the Grinch. Instead, she spends much of her time trying to figure out a way to get Santa to come down so that she can ask him for a very specific Christmas wish, and that is to find some way to help her overworked mom. So I think that a lot of the reason why I kind of honestly don't feel very much for the plot is because it just feels kind of stretched out and they're not really sure. The filmmakers weren't really sure what to do. You're just kind of sitting there watching some really unfunny antics. So yeah, that's kind of my bad stuff with the Grinch. But the good stuff, I felt actually came off pretty strong. And I would say the good stuff especially came off much of the good stuff in this version of the Grinch was the really heartfelt moments. Again, going back to Cindy Lou Who, I didn't really care much for the scenes where she was planning, her attempt to trap Santa so she could ask, her really big wish. I didn't really get much out of her scenes with her friends, but I would say in terms of like the scenes they spend with her relationship with her mom and how she, tries to help out her mom and, how she really wants to, find some way to, meet Santa so that she can, find a way to help her overworked mom. I felt that was done really great. Like, I really liked watching the scenes where, like, she was spending time with her mom. And also, and I also really like the heartfelt scenes with the Grinch himself. Like, the scenes where when the Grinch comes to, like in one of the times he comes to Whoville, like when he accidentally lands on their Christmas tree lighting celebration, seeing all the celebrations reminds him, and we get this flashback of what happened to him when he was a kid, basically why he doesn't like Christmas, and that's because when he was a kid, he was orphaned, he was lonely, nobody wanted to celebrate Christmas with him, and that's why, he basically has turned into a curmudgeon. And I felt that those scenes were he's brought back to his past, and when he, in those kind of scenes are actually done really well. I really feel for him. And that's also, and there's also another scene where the moose character, Fred Moose Reindeer. I'm not sure what he is. I know it's the world of Dr. Seuss, so you could say whatever. But where where the Grinch finds out that Fred has a family with like a kid and looks like a wife, and it's just like the Grinch decides to let him go because he doesn't want to have to take Fred away from his family and keep him isolated. So when they do scenes like that, and also the ending where, and like I said in the beginning, spoiler alert, it's very difficult to talk about what I actually really like about this movie without spoiling it, is the scene where the Grinch decides to warm up, when he's on Mount Crumpet, and he hesitates actually throwing away all the Christmas presents. When he hears the Who's sing, he realizes that he can't if he even if he throws away all the Christmas presents, it won't destroy the Who's spirit. And he also realizes that it's not that it's not the Who's or Christmas that he hates. It's just that he really hates being lonely. And when you see him go down to town, Cindy invites him to come to their Christmas dinner with the whole family there, just like similar to how in the book the Grinch comes to dinner and carves the roast beast. It's actually done in like a really like sympathetic way. It honestly put a smile on my face. If anything, I would say, of all the changes that they made to the story, I know some of them, they have to change because, they're trying to, stretch out this plot to fill a whole movie. If there's any changes that I really liked, I would say the way they pulled off the ending was actually really sweet and heartfelt. I really felt for the Grinch. I really felt happy that, he finally has, a sense of, belonging, and he realizes that, hey, the Who's, they're really nice people, they're saying hello to him. There's a neighbor, there's this kind of annoying neighbor that thinks that even from the beginning of this movie is friends with the Grinch, and the Grinch finally warms up to him. So when they pull off the heartfelt scenes, it actually works really well. I would even go as far as to say that the third act of this movie was actually done pretty good. I mean, it's, yes, it's different from the book in that they add a couple more things on top of, he just realizes that, as the book says, maybe Christmas isn't something that you could buy in a store, but the way they pulled it off is really sweet and heartfelt, and I liked it. So, yeah, so how do I personally feel about the Grinch in the end? It's still a really flawed movie in my mind because I don't think they were able to stretch out the plot pretty well. And like I said, the jokes tend to range, like 98% of the jokes range from either being just unfunny and I don't have much to say about them, to being real stinkers and, really getting on my nerves. But the heartfelt scenes I felt were done really well. They felt really genuine, and I really feel for them. I even kind of related to the Grinch as a person who feels, lonely at times. So, yeah, so overall, while the Grinch, it's not nearly as horrible as I feared, and I think a lot of people were worried it was. At the same time, it's still a pretty flawed movie, especially the first and second acts. But I will, in this movie's defense, if you can sit through the first and second acts and get to the third act, I think you'll, honestly be genuinely surprised. I would even say there's even some moments in the second act that, especially when they, go back to the Grinch, being confronted with his past, or, when, he, makes, really big decisions that relate to like his emotional feelings, I would say you work pretty well. So on a scale of 1 to 10, I would personally give Illumination's Grinch a 6.8 out of 10. Not as horrible. I wouldn't even call it a horrible movie per se, but it's a really flawed one at that. So, all right, so let me know your thoughts down below. What did you think of the Grinch? Did you think it was good? Did you think it was bad? Did you think that it had some pretty good moments, or were the bad moments just too much to handle? Let me know your thoughts down below. Until next time, this has been Blood Moon Bobby, and thank you all for watching. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed this Blood Moon Bobby video. Like and share the video if you enjoyed it, and feel free to leave a comment. Subscribe to my channel, and ring the bell to get notified when I release my latest videos. Follow me at Blood Moon Bobby on your favorite social media platforms to take part in polls, see my tech tips, and to hear about my video plans. Thanks for watching.